Meet Chris Parker. Getting ready for the greatest night of her life.
Hi.
I gotta cancel.
Now she's stuck babysitting the Anderson kids. Sarah.
Mom got Chris to babysit for me.
Chris?
Her brother Brad.
Oh my...
His best friend Daryl.
Who is this kid?
Stray dog.
Take good care of my baby. I'll guard her with my life.
What could possibly go wrong?
Chris, I'm in trouble. Hang up and sit down. I'll be there in half an hour.
This is the night when things go from bad
My mom's car!
to worse.
Big city, scum sucker.
To ridiculous.
Wanna go to bed?
Hey, I like danger.
Wait!
You should try babysitting.
And this is only the beginning.
The friend is dead. Chris can handle it.
Sarah's probably hanging from the rafters by now. Sarah, hold on! I'm still in control here.
You could say they were having a bad night
Any problems? No, not really.
if they weren't having such a good time. Adventures in Babysitting.
Think your parents will ever ask me to babysit again?
If they do, I'd ask them for $1 more an hour.
But that's definitely a holiday party. Her parents or the kids' parents are going to. Right?
Seems like it, but watching it this time, like I don't see any Christmas anywhere.
Yeah,
Like
it's just-
That's a good point. Yeah, like
I asked the
I agree.
family what month they thought this took place, and they're like, "Oh, probably like late January." It's like,
I mean, it does. It could be like it certainly seems like maybe it's post. I don't know. It's a good question.
it's either like because there's no like Christmas decorations go up at this point. You know, in the '80s, they were doing it after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, they'd have been everywhere.
So they'd have been everywhere. So it's either like mid-November or January.
Well, it's
Whoops.
definitely cold, right?
Yeah,
Because they're
it's
like
cold.
hanging out by the fire bucket. And,
Yeah.
you know, like you don't need that in the summer.
Yeah.
maybe there
Um,
isn't snow on the ground. I thought
No,
I
there
know. I
think
was
there
just
is-
trying to think.
I think there is in the beginning because all right. Well,
I guess
maybe there's.
I know now. Shit. I don't know. Don't know.
Okay, give me 1 second.
I mean, it did come out in July, right? So, like, it would be weird to drop
so did
a
Die
hol-
Hard.
a holiday. Yeah, but you know where that sits in the pantheon. That later was culted into a Christmas movie.
Culted. Well, Noirvember is all wrapped up, and we are headed straight towards the holiday season. Welcome to a new episode of ReconCinemation. I'm John Diner,
I'm David Munchak.
I'm Brent Hutchins.
and this is the podcast that takes a look back at some of our favorite films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we're looking at one today that is maybe not a Christmas movie, but it's in that area, and we're heading towards the holidays. So we usually start from less holiday flavor to more holiday flavor. And we are looking back at Adventures in Babysitting.
All right. Is it a holiday movie? I don't know. I think
Well, I think there's snow in the beginning. Somebody out there, one of our ReconCinemites, what-
yeah.
ReconCinemaniacs.
ReconCinemaniacs.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
One of our ReconCinemaniacs will call it out for us if we're wrong. But I seem to remember snow in that.
I feel like there's snow in the beginning.
yeah,
but
in
but
the
it's
opening
definitely-
scene, right?
it's definitely gray, right? It's
Definitely gray. Yeah.
I feel like it's probably getting mixed up with Home Alone, but I don't know.
And maybe it's the music, the opening song, I think is the same one from the opening of Gremlins and because it's I guess more of a wintry movie than a holiday movie. I always just associated this one with Christmas. Maybe that's just me, but
She looks at a toy store display. I think that kind of triggers this idea. She'd be into looking at toys because it's Christmas time.
yeah,
and they're all wearing like heavy coats and stuff, right?
yeah, it's definitely winter. It's winter.
There's definitely a chill in the air.
Yeah,
there's a chill in the air. Yeah,
and that party where the parents go, I always also thought that was a Christmas party, but watching it this time, like there's actually no direct indication of Christmas.
No, I always thought it was a holiday party.
Yeah,
but yeah, no indication of any holiday at all.
So it's an almost Christmas movie here at ReconCinemation.
We're gonna put it in. We're gonna put it in the holiday movie pile.
Yeah, but we're going from we just finished looking back at Noirvember, and we looked at Double Indemnity. We looked at L.A. Confidential. So we had, film noir in general is a very heavy genre or subgenre. Now we're going the opposite direction to the kind of the lightest of lighthearted 80s comedies with Adventures in Babysitting. Are you ready to switch gears, guys?
Yeah, it's time.
It was too dark. November was too dark. Now we just got to lighten it all up.
Yeah, let's just, let's get lighthearted for the holidays. I think that's the right approach to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And when was the first time you guys saw this? Brent, when did Adventures in Babysitting hit your radar? Did you see it in the theater or home video?
Oh, I saw it in the theater. Family movie day. Went and saw this one in the theater. I feel like in 1987, I may have lived at the theater, going back and seeing some of the other movies from the list while researching this movie. But yeah, definitely saw this one in the theater. Whole family went. I remember leaving and everybody had a really good time. They loved it. It was just one of those, we went to movies fairly regularly, but not always as a full family, but this one was one that we all caught together.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice. David, what about you?
I don't remember. I could have easily seen this in the theater with my siblings. I feel like I might have, but I don't have a distinct memory of it. And then I do remember seeing it on television, the Saturday afternoon movie or Sunday afternoon movie, or whatever, something like that. Like it was on. I felt like I'd seen this a number of times. So
was it like still a recent movie, you think, when you saw it on, what was it, like Channel 11?
Yeah, like a Channel 11.
Would that be local... Remind me, did you get WPIX? Was that?
I did get PIX.
Nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so I feel like it'd be on one of those stations. I definitely remember seeing it a bunch, and I didn't own it, or like I wasn't running out and renting it every weekend.
You weren't renting it every weekend?
I wasn't.
Unlike some people on this podcast. Me.
What are you talking about?
No. I did not catch this in the theaters. I don't think 87. Yeah, I was going to the theater quite a bit, but I didn't see this one there. This was one that my dad rented on his way home from work on a Friday night. So it was stop off at either Camel Video or Movies One to pick up a movie and then get a pizza. Kind of a perfect Friday night for a kid. But that was a Friday night tradition for quite some time, mostly like the entirety of the late 80s, I feel like. But we saw, Big Trouble in Little China. We saw this movie. We saw Ernest Goes to Camp, like just a lot of family movies. Not Big Trouble in Little China isn't really a family movie, but it was fun nonetheless. So we saw a bunch of those in the late 80s. So that was a fun, good times, good memories. For those who maybe haven't seen Adventures in Babysitting in a little while, which may be, quite a number of people listening. I don't know if it's how popular the film is anymore. It was for some time. It felt like it became a little bit of a cult movie with how much people loved it. And then it's kind of gone off the radar again. But David, can you sum up what's happening in Adventures in Babysitting?
Adventures in Babysitting is this comedy where we follow Chris, who is a senior in high school, and her boyfriend cancels a romantic evening, so she's free to babysit one of her regular clients, and then in the midst of the evening, her best friend calls her and needs her help, so she has to drag the kids with her into the city to save her friend, and they get into some hijinks with jazz musicians, mobsters, and a whole range of things. Thor himself, crossing over. So it's quite an adventure for everyone involved.
This movie, I have a lot of feelings about this movie. Watching it this time, it just really brought up for me that that 80s bubble that just existed of these movies that are just wackiness and these crazy scenarios that mostly involving kids, that just it's its own like sense of reality. How do you guys feel about this is an 80s movie?
I agree, though. It definitely has that kind of, I don't know, childlike innocence bubble that a lot of the 80s movies that I highly regarded and still highly regard, had or displayed or kind of exuded. So I think that it fits into that pretty squarely.
Yeah, like movies like this and License to Drive and they just like kids in these very dangerous situations that spun another way could be a very dark movie, but it's just kept so light and lighthearted. I don't know if it was had to do with culturally what was going on with like Reagan and shielding yourselves from like reality, separating. Maybe it's class, maybe it's money, just separating from what's like really going on. Like these don't feel like real people, they don't feel like real people. And this wouldn't really be happening. It's just this kind of fairy tale almost.
I don't want to discount the experiences of people who live in the suburbs, but I think they can have pretty interesting lives. Is that your, like, are you saying like it's like what the movie's portraying is just even their life, and the suburb is not?
Yeah, I think it's a commentary on that too, a little bit, that suburban lifestyle is so, like, I grew up in the suburbs, and going down to New York City was like very daunting.
Sure.
And very intimidating, and everything was scary. The buildings were tall and scary. It was
fast and loud.
Yeah, and everybody walking by was dangerous. Whether that was
talking
also
to themselves in the streets, and
it was New York in the 80s too. But
so this movie portrays that same thought, that you go from the suburbs, which is nice and peaceful, then you go to the dangerous city, because the city is fraught with danger, like throughout for these kids.
Yeah. And these kids with no experience have to navigate it.
Yeah. So it's very like, I think it touches just on like the ignorance of living in a town, like versus in the city. White suburban life is and was a real thing. The whites fled the cities, Mad Men style. You know what I mean? Chris Columbus, who directed it, I'm the kind of kid-friendly fare that he makes, it seems like maybe he did too. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you feel, well, let's compare this to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You feel like this was influenced by that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, it definitely feels very influenced. It's very John Hughesian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably one of the most John Hughes movies of that time frame that wasn't actually done by John Hughes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it definitely shares kind of it's a cousin to sort of those type of movies, without a doubt. Like it feels very influenced by a lot of the Hughes 80s movies.
It does. It really does feel like a John Hughes movie. And watching it this time, I hadn't thought about this movie in quite some time. I actually thought he did produce this movie.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it happens in Chicago. I mean, it's like there's so many things that are like John Hughes tropes that are present here.
Yeah, and Hughes would, within a few years would work with Chris Columbus. So there's a relationship there. But so it was shocking for me to see Hughes' name not in the credits watching it. But yeah, it does feel, let's just talk about John Hughes, even though this isn't a Hughes movie for a second. We've talked about him before on the podcast and how sort of divisive his work is now, that there's some things that are really, that continue to hit home. There's things about Breakfast Club that hit home. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I think, is a great film. But some of his, the material he has in his scripts, like, age very poorly, are fairly sexist. So it's a mix. And, at this point in time, he was almost kind of right around the peak of his career. So all these, I think, teen movies sort of relate to him and can compare or branch off of, his style. And this is probably one of the ones that I guess were more popular at the time. Doesn't necessarily have the depth of some of the character work in Breakfast Club. Would probably go with more of his lighthearted stuff, like a Weird Science or something.
Sure.
But,
well, I mean, and I think Ferris Bueller is a great kind of comparison.
Yeah. Kids off on their, or teens off on their own, just having a crazy experience. Ferris Bueller is one over the course of one day. This is over the course of one night. So they could, you could just link the movies, if you could. I wish this had been a spin-off of Ferris Bueller. Then it would have been perfect.
It's a bit of a combination of, Ferris Bueller and Goonies, and, just the sort of group, the teenage group kind of traveling and going on their adventure.
Yeah, the Goonies has a lot more life threat. Like, it feels like a little more realistic, life-threatening peril going on than this. This is a little more silly, like, peril, that, to me at least.
I don't know. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of kids spelunking under the city of Astoria, like hunting down a pirate ship. Seems pretty silly, but it's
Fratellis, though. The Fratellis are like actual. I mean, I guess they're kind of nincompoops. I just want to say that word, but
I'm glad you threw it in there.
But they also are kind of menacing as well.
Yeah, but so are the like the chop shop.
The gangster guy. Oh, they no way.
I mean, but there's I feel like you can draw a connection between the Fratellis and them.
Yeah,
they don't play as big a part.
Yeah,
there's more like random human threat in Adventures in Babysitting than there is in Goonies. Goonies, it's strictly the Fratellis, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And here you have other like unknowns, that come in, like the every human interaction they come across at some point is until proven otherwise could be a threat. And I think they play that up, right? Like there's the guy stealing the car, there's the guy that's helping them with their blown out tire, there's Thor. I mean, it's just like every person they run into is possibly like a problem.
Right.
So but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's parallels, which makes sense, honestly, because Chris Columbus is attached. Yeah.
This is a newer light teen fare without. It's a family movie, really. Before it's like a teen movie, right? About teens.
Yeah, I think that's like we were saying earlier, that it could be a lot darker. You could do a very dark version of this movie.
Sure. Yeah, but who'd want to see that? But
Nobody.
Right.
But like a movie like this, begotten by Ferris Bueller, this movie begets like License to Drive, right? Like teens on a one night adventure because they don't have a license, and it's it's
great double feature, by the way.
Yeah, I think these are like a solid pairing where it's like it'd be these two, and then that's when you have your Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles pairing, and it's like sort of two cuts of a slightly off generation, like.
Well, and I think that's what's kind of great about kind of those chunk of movies in the 80s is that they kind of bridge the gap. Like I feel like you can be an adult and enjoy the movie. You can be a child and enjoy the movie, like a Goonies or like Adventures in Babysitting or Ferris Bueller's, or I mean, the list goes on. But I don't know if that's the same with like teen movies today. You know what I mean? And it could just be my perspective. Like I'm not going to see a bunch of
what's a teen movie these days?
I know.
Like is it like Harry Potter?
Like Euphoria on HBO? Is that
right? Like I don't know, but like
that's
mean the last one I can think of is like High School Musical, but that's like 30 years ago. So like I have no idea, man. Like that's what I'm saying though.
Here's I was just thinking, like, comparing how John Hughes movies have aged versus how Chris Columbus's films have aged, there's a difference, right? Like Columbus's movies are really, they're family movies. Like they're for families to watch. And I think because they kind of stay away from some of the subjects that Hughes is addressing, they have, in a way, a little longer of a shelf life, just because like they're always going to be solid, watchable family movies, right? That don't, that they stay surface level, but they stay entertaining. Hughes movies have, there's stuff that they're dealing with teen stuff, and he really spoke to that audience. Now, because of that, like some of it doesn't age very well, and now that's working against those movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm not sure how much Weird Science holds up today.
Like that. No, like not.
And I still think of it fondly, but I'm like, I'd probably be cringing a lot, like, oh Jesus,
Well, I think that's
which is fine.
We've talked about this before, but you can't just like brush off those movies and just give them, I don't want to say cancel culture, but you can't just like brush them aside and never address them again, because I think part of it is to acknowledge what doesn't work about them anymore. And I think you can.
Well, what is it? What is it that doesn't work about them anymore?
You'd have to give.
Well, Weird Science, I understand.
There's a lot of sexism. Issues in all of Hughes' movies, almost all of them.
I feel like there's a lot of whitewashing as well, but I mean, I also think like that's a little bit of a product of like the suburbs in the 80s, or at least the perception of the suburbs.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I haven't gone back and rewatched the John Hughes movie in a long time. Probably need to check it out just to see how I feel about it. But I, like David said, like Weird Science, I totally get why that wouldn't work in today, but I still have, I saw that one in the theater. I still have fond memories about that one, like it was a lot of fun for the time. But I get, like going back and rewatching this Adventures in Babysitting, like there wasn't anything that really stuck out to me that I think would be offensive to audiences today.
Well, there's one word that gets thrown out there, but we'll come to that a little later. But that's the difference though, is that Columbus is staying away from that kind of material, right? Like he's not gonna go too deep into the teen issues. He's gonna stay with the fun, the adventure, the shenanigans that are going on, and through that's gonna be, the comedy is gonna come through there. Versus, your teen almost like dramas that Hughes was dealing with, like in Breakfast Club. You know, the Ali Sheedy's character. You know, the fact that she can't be accepted until she changes who she is a big problem now.
Yeah,
it's like a real strike against. I mean, we didn't see it that way growing up, but now looking at it, like, that's really sad. It's sad that she can't be who she is, and she's going to change herself entirely to be accepted, and then probably brushed off the next Monday. But so I don't know. Anyway, there are different levels of 80s teen movies, and this, this is on the lighter side. So let's talk about Chris Columbus, though. This is his Adventures in Babysitting, is Chris Columbus's directorial debut. He had been around for a few years. He started writing when he was at the Tisch School of the Arts in New York. One of his teachers took one of his writing samples and used it to get Chris an agent, which was, I think, like him just doing writing was, he credits that as like one of the best things he ever did. He directed a short in 1980 called "I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here," which I've not seen, but apparently Steven Spielberg did, and really took a liking to Columbus. Columbus wrote a movie called Reckless in 1984, which I think was, I want to say it was Daryl Hannah and Aidan Quinn. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. And then Spielberg hired him to write Gremlins. And we actually talked a lot about Gremlins. You can check it out here in the archives at ReconCinemation.com. And that's really the beginning of Columbus's career. He goes directly from that into writing The Goonies, which we'll probably cover one day here, big time favorite, and Young Sherlock Holmes, both also for Amblin Entertainment and Spielberg. So, a really kind of couldn't have had a better connection at that point in the 80s.
Right. Young Sherlock Holmes. That's another one. We should look into doing that one at some point.
I've never seen it. Is it even available?
I don't know. I think it is. I have to figure out where, but I thought I saw it pop up recently on a streamer, and I almost started watching it. That was one that I enjoyed as a kid, but I could not tell you for the life of me what happens in that movie. The only thing I remember is that there's a kid who gets chased by stop motion eclairs. That's all.
Interesting.
Wait,
Yeah.
which movie is this?
I can
Young
tell you
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you two things about it. Sherlock
Yes.
Holmes is in it, and he's young.
Isn't I have to get, yeah.
Is that?
Yeah,
is
there you
that
go.
true?
That's
It's true. It's a
your
fact.
powers of deductive reasoning are strong.
Listen,
like Sherlock
I get
Holmes.
better. I get better with age. That's it.
Yeah. You're giving Sherlock a run for his money.
But obviously, Gremlins and Goonies, huge movies for our generation. I love both of those movies so much, and Gremlins is a continuing Christmas classic for me every year. Are they did Gremlins 3 happen? Was it a Netflix series or movie that?
I don't think it happened.
It was a Mogwai show, wasn't it? Or
Did it
something
come
like that?
out?
Yeah,
It
I
did.
wasn't-
What are you talking about? You're making
Yeah,
shit up.
there was
right now,
there's
guys.
a new
Both of you.
Gremlins thing.
Don't
Did
get
David,
gaslit
get the
into
researchers
thinking
on it.
I forget. No, maybe
Never-
did
it has
come
not
out yet?
happened. No.
But
There's
it's
no way I
made,
would have.
or
There's
it's-
no way I would have missed
Oh,
that.
Secrets of the Mogwai. Oh,
Yeah.
I may not have. Yeah.
maybe it's not out yet. But it's been talked about for years.
Oh, HBO. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because it was announced with the HBO Max.
So it's coming.
And I guess now it's 2023, but it was
Great.
supposed to come out
Perfect.
2022.
Um,
Either way, it's
Gremlins is so much
a
fun.
prequel. That show is a prequel to Gremlins.
Prequel.
sweet.
Interesting.
The Mogwai who would be Gizmo, along with his owner as a young man.
Mhm.
Okay.
The
Great.
shot, like the
I'm
shop,
in.
the old guy,
I think
pawn
so.
shop guy.
Yeah, I think so.
Sign me up.
I'm in. Yeah. As long as Gizmo doesn't do like a kung fu karate scene, or I feel like if that was made in the 80s, there'd have been some kind of like karate fight.
karate or like an Indiana Jones reference or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Goonies also was to me that was always my favorite like rainy day movie. That I loved Goonies so much, and it's also one that I find that only the people who saw it when they were kids love it.
So strange.
If you see it as an adult, those people all are like, nah, I don't get it. I don't get what the big deal is.
Yeah. Yeah. If you missed it, if you were not a product of the 80s or 90s, it doesn't
register, right?
It doesn't hit. No, it's totally crazy to me because it's such an integral part of my like childhood movie consumption, but I get it. I mean, I'm old now, so makes sense, but I don't know another movie that is so on the polar opposites like that, like you're saying, like if you saw it in the 80s, it
not
it
even that, like
registers
just seeing it as a kid.
Yeah. No, I tried to show it to my kids recently. They were like, what the hell are you showing me, dude?
Yeah.
So
2 of my kids loved it. My youngest son got scared. I think the Fratellis and Sloth, and just he had a hard time. But Columbus, did such an amazing job, and also obviously Richard Donner, big part of that, of capturing that sense of wonder and adventure that kids have. I would get my group of friends together and we'd ride bikes like all the way across town over like train tracks and have just crazy stuff happen, and not to the extent of Goonies, by the way, but and your imagination's going, and they did such a good job of capturing that in reality. And he's always been good at that. I mean, Gremlins has that, Adventures in Babysitting has that, although much, I think a little bit more family friendly, whereas Goonies does kind of lean a little more into the like maybe teenage years also. But
well, it's funny because Adventures in Babysitting, when it came out, was released or distributed by Touchstone, is that right?
Yeah.
Which is owned by Disney. And so like this was the first like major release by like a Disney distribution company that was PG-13. And like in the original release, like if you watch it now on Disney
Plus,
on Disney streamer,
yeah,
then like all the words, it's the PG version. Like they've taken out the curse words and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when we saw it in the theater or back in the day, like it had curse words and it was a little bit like kind of
a little edgy.
Pushing, edgy. That's a good way to put it. Like pushing the envelope a little bit more. So like, it's interesting that you say that because I feel like they're comparable, but there's been, like the editing and kind of the re-release of Adventures in Babysitting is kind of, cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah, and makes it even lighter and just really pushes it into the family film category.
Right.
I did watch it on the streamer, and saw that to see all the changes. But I hated that they had to edit the greatest line of the movie.
I know, dude.
Which was,
"Don't fuck with the lords of hell."
Yeah! Don't fuck with the babysitter.
Yep.
Damn.
What do they change it to? Because I watched the DVD, and that's the same as theatrical. But what do they change it to? Don't screw with. Don't mess with.
Don't fool with.
Don't fool with. Yeah, don't fool with.
Don't fool.
Don't flip with the babysitter.
Don't flip. Don't flapjack with the babysitter.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys.
The TV.
It's pretty egregious though, and I was like, I get it because it's Disney streamer, but like,
yeah,
it's annoying. It's annoying when things are censored. Like it's
It's almost as good as the TV version of Die Hard with Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falco.
Right.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falco. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about how this movie came to be. It was written by David Simpkins, who actually plays one of the frat guys who mistakes Elisabeth Shue for the playmate.
Is he the blonde curly hair one?
No.
Or is he okay?
The one with the glasses and the hat.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's David Simpkins. So he wrote it very quickly, pitched it all over town, was bouncing from studio to studio. Linda Obst and our very one of our favorite producers, Deborah Hill, actually took it in and moved forward with it over to Paramount. And their intern, who is was Stacey Scher, who became one of the top independent producers, I think, ever through the Miramax world and the throughout the 90s and beyond. She was an intern at their company and was the one who was like, "Hey guys, you should read this script. Like this has some legs." So some heavyweights involved here, and it was Deborah Hill. So we've talked about Deborah Hill many times on this show. Was partnered with John Carpenter for the early part of his career. Was a big part of a lot of his movies didn't have the early success, but definitely had long-term success. So Halloween, right. The Fog, The Thing, Escape from New York. She was involved with all of those, but by this point, they had both walked away from the Halloween franchise. If you want to hear us talk about that, you can listen to our podcasts in the archives where we talk about Halloween 4, Halloween 5. We get into all of it. Just if you have extra time. So she's turned a corner in her career, is trying to move away from the horror genre and separate from Carpenter and do her own thing. And you couldn't be more separate than by doing this movie.
Right. Yeah.
So they and at this point, the script, there was a heist plot line that was more of what was happening in the city, that they got tied up in some robbery, like an Ocean's 11 style kind of theft. Was that
the original take on the Chop Shop people?
Yeah, I think so.
Was a heist? Yeah. Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, but so they had written this script for Molly Ringwald to star in, but she apparently turned it down pretty quickly. She was. Would you say she was the top teenage actress of the 80s
during this time? Yeah. Had to be, right?
Yeah. I mean, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, The Pickup Artist, was that? Yeah, I think of The Pickup Artist with Robert Downey, but yeah, just like hit after hit, and she was everywhere, but very quickly said no to this one.
Oh, cool.
So Paramount had them starting to rework the script for an older actress, like out of the teenage years. Bette Midler and Cher were two of the names that they were trying to get attached to this movie. Now,
it's hot garbage. That's hot garbage.
So the babysitter, babysitter could have been Cher.
Yes,
that doesn't even make sense.
Like Cher could do Moonstruck, or she could do Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I like it when you hear about all the shit they throw at the wall, and you're like, man, that doesn't make any kind of sense. I wonder how long that person worked in Hollywood.
Right. Well, eventually Paramount decided to move on, and the movie got repitched over at Touchstone, and that's when it started to pick up steam again. Valerie Bertinelli and Phoebe Cates both read for the role of Chris, which would have been interesting. I could see either one of them doing it. Phoebe Cates was pretty high on the food chain at this point, also having worked with Columbus on Gremlins. But the role eventually went to Elisabeth Shue. Now, I don't think we've talked about Elisabeth Shue on ReconCinemation before, have we?
Where would she have come up? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think she's made an appearance. So welcome to the show, Elisabeth Shue.
Overdue.
Long overdue. I mean, I feel like she was greatly underappreciated over time.
Yeah.
She's been in so many good things, and I feel like she's just started to kind of reappear recently.
She's been busy.
Yeah, I think she
she's
also fell into that. You know, we've talked about it before. That became a victim of that. Unfortunately, a lot of actresses. There was for a long time a sort of a stigma against using them when they hit a certain age. That, you know, they had to be young. They had to look young, or, you know, skip whatever, and then they would be like grandma role, or age at least. Now, thankfully, that's changing. But I think a lot of it you know, we talked about with Kim Basinger in our last episode, that they kind of disappear for a while after they hit 40. Then it's kind of like, you know, they like the options that they're given are just not very much. You know, again, that's changed, all for the better.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen her. I mean, she kept popping up here and there, but I hadn't, like, she's always kind of been, I feel like when she pops up, it's always really exciting, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, when she was in she popped up in Cobra Kai, like season 2 or 3, and that was awesome. Yeah. But like, I kind of lost track of her until she showed up in The Boys, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. So the last thing I remember seeing her was The Hollow Man, which was like 2000, and then not much for quite some time.
She had a couple things that she did, like, you know, I feel like, was that like Piranha 3D, you know, but that's again like one of those kind of like campy, like she shows up as a cult like kind of fan favorite. Yeah, but not anything big.
She had steady work though. I mean, she worked almost.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, it's just she wasn't showing up in star making vehicles, and you know, So, but she was on CSI for 3 seasons. I mean, which that's a lot.
She really?
Yeah.
What years?
2012 to 2015. So 71 episodes.
Yeah.
So
well,
so if you're not watching CSI,
yeah.
But like other than that, I mean,
people
just
do.
You know, lots of films that were not big movies, but
but she had such a great track record. I mean, I think it started with Karate Kid. Really, was her first big movie, and then she's got this, and then she's got Back to the Future 2, right?
Yep.
And 3. Yeah. Well,
2 and 3.
It's not really.
She's in 3. She's kind of in 3. She's technically in it, but
You don't forget Cocktail, man. Cocktail was a big deal that came out in 88.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, she definitely, like, she turned down Karate Kid 2 to do this movie, right? And so
I'm pretty sure the timing matches. So,
I mean, I was reading some stuff where like she basically she chased this role down. Like, she wanted this role because like in 86 when they were casting this thing, like there weren't a lot of roles, like lead roles for actresses like her age, you know? And so like most people were playing like, you know, the love interest or whatever. And this was like she was top bill, you know? I mean, she was like the number one thing on this movie.
Yeah, she want to be Daniel's girlfriend, or does she want to star?
Well, especially in Karate Kid 2, like her role, what would it have been?
Should she just be in the beginning, or
she'd just be in the beginning and maybe the end? I mean, I never liked how they kind of wrote her character off. It felt like they were angry at her. It just felt like a writer and director being pissed off that she said no to the movie, because they do no justice to her character, that she just ditches Danny, you know, like
high school love interest, man.
Yeah.
Shit happens a lot.
But they finally made up for it in season 3 of Cobra Kai. You're right.
Yeah, it was so awesome to see her back in it.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I mean, so she went from She did do Link too. I don't know if you guys saw Link, but that was
No.
that was like about. So there was. Do you remember the movie Project X?
Of course.
I think Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
So that was like the nice monkey movie. Link was the mean monkey movie. Like it was like the horror version of Project X.
Oh no, look at that poster.
Yeah. But it was me being the kid that I was all about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think many people know that movie.
You loved Link. Huh?
I did. I'm not gonna lie.
Brent's a Link head. We
Yeah.
figured it out.
Yep.
But of course, like she's great in Soap Dish. That's another like cult kind of classic that I think is a really great movie. Of course, you can't forget probably her biggest dramatic role, which was Leaving Las Vegas. I mean, she was nominated for Best Actress for that. And that was a huge movie for her. And another one that came out right after is called The Trigger Effect, which was more of an indie film with Kyle MacLachlan and Dermot Mulroney. Really, really good movie.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't. I saw it in the theater. Really, really good film. But then she went back to doing some big budget stuff like The Saint and Hollow Man and so overall really like solid body of work for her. But this was really like her movie. This out of all the movies,
so
this
good in
is
this movie.
this is her showcase.
Totally.
Let's talk about some of the other actors. There's a lot of sort of familiar faces in this, and some who went on to, have bigger careers, and some who, maybe didn't. Keith Coogan, who plays, I forgot his name. Keith Coogan, who plays Brad.
Plays Brad, yep.
Was all over TV in the early and mid 80s. Like pretty much if there was an 80s show on, he made a guest shot on it. I don't think his movie career was as big, but was definitely one of the more recognizable faces. And I think he's great in this movie. Oh yeah,
he's very good. I mean, he did a couple other movies where he's also good, but it never really took off. But I like Toy Soldiers, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Right, Toy Soldiers. Great. I forgot he's in that.
Yeah, dude, he's like the lead in Toy Soldiers. He's fantastic. But yeah, for whatever reason, his movie career never really took off, but he was really good in this.
Yeah, and then we've got Anthony Rapp as what's oh god, I forgot his character name too.
Daryl.
Yeah.
Anthony Rapp as Daryl. And this is like Anthony Rapp looks like unrecognizable here. I'm just younger. He's got the red hair as opposed to the almost white blonde hair that we'd know him for the rest of his career. And we did talk about him in our Dazed and Confused episode.
This is the first movie he did, right? So this was his first acting gig.
Yeah.
He was in more stuff than I realized. I didn't really I forgot he was in School Ties, or I knew he was in Dazed and Confused. That's where I recognized him in film for the first thing. Mm-hmm. And then I saw him on Broadway. He was part of the original cast of Rent. And so I saw him on Broadway at and that was pretty awesome. But
the original run?
Yeah, the original run.
Yeah.
No shit. Awesome.
Back in the mid 90s, late 90s.
Brent, you were a big Rent fan when we first met.
That's dope. Good story. Good story. You're never going to hear me sing those songs again, but good story. I used to sing that soundtrack. I was like obsessed, man. Anybody who got in my car was forced to listen to a concert of me singing every fucking song.
Oh, Jesus.
I can vouch for that.
To Rent. Yeah. Everybody.
I'll say crazy. I couldn't have been more surprised at that.
Oh, dude.
That I just met Brent, this New Yorker meeting Brent, this Texan who was, not a stereotypical Texan, but when we got in the car, I did not expect Rent to be the
show
audio
tunes,
cassette
guys. All
playing.
Show tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was obsessed with this. I was obsessed with this show, man. When you're fortunate enough to see a show that is as well received as this one from the original cast on Broadway, you know, at that point in your life, it's pretty, you know, especially like I was a
Yeah.
kid coming out of high school who did musical theater and did theater and choir and all sorts of stuff. I've since put my singing in the rear view.
For now, just for now.
Yeah. Man, I was just in India for a work trip, and we went over to one of our partners' houses, and they had a karaoke set up, and it was fun, but they like made everybody sing a karaoke song.
Oh my
There was
God.
no getting out of the house. It was like the scene in Adventures in Babysitting where it's like nobody leaves without singing the blues. And I was like, everybody had to sing, even myself. And I was like, oh, this is bad. I don't like singing. I'm so embarrassed.
But you're great.
I wish I could have harnessed some of that don't give a shit from high school and
The rent
and
power.
early college. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, and then Anthony Rapp currently is on Star Trek Discovery and is fantastic on that show.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it, but I hear great things.
David's a big Star Trek Discovery fan.
For the most part.
Yeah. It has its ups and downs, but
It
that
you
can be
know,
a separate show.
It might have a massive up and then down all the way down. So,
All the way to the bottom.
Oh, no.
But
That's
yeah.
not good.
first two seasons are wonderful.
Amazing. And
Can't speak more highly.
yeah. And then that's about it. But Maya Bruton is in the film, and she is like, again, this is probably her biggest showcase as far as movies go, but then we would all know her from Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
She was great on that.
Which is a great show that
Great show.
has been lost to time. There's got to be some kind of rights issue or something. Like doesn't stream anywhere. It never came out on DVD in all the years that TV was getting, tossed out onto DVD. That one never popped up, and I loved it. I was a huge Parker Lewis fan.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's a great show. She was also in Back to the Future.
Was she really? Who was she in Back to the Future?
She was like, she's at the dinner table in one of the scenes. She's like a niece or something like that to Marty's niece.
Oh my. All right. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
But wouldn't have crossed paths with Elisabeth Shue because she was in the first one, right?
She was in the first one, yeah.
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 Penelope Ann Miller, who plays Brenda, I think this was one of her first movies that I at least recognize her from. I mean, the Brenda character is like,
I love Brenda.
She's awesome.
She's so over the top. Like
just every time they just go back to her, and it's like I just love that. I just love how fun it is. It's her night. It's the worst night ever of just being in a bus station.
Yeah, it's like the worst bus station setup, and every corner she turns, it's like another like totally terrifying moment.
Chris, it's Brenda.
Brenda?
Chris.
Brenda, what's wrong?
Oh, Chris, I'm in trouble.
Brenda, you're always in trouble.
No, I'm really in trouble. I did it.
You spiked your tab with Drano?
No, I ran away from home.
You what? Where are you?
I'm at the bus station downtown.
Brenda, look, just don't go anywhere.
I can't. I don't have any money. I spent it all on the cab here. Chris, I need help.
I know.
You're in my house.
If I take a cab to the Andersons, do you think you could pay for it?
Oh no, Brenda, that's gonna be like $40. I don't have $40.
Well, can you pick me up?
No, Brenda, I'm babysitting.
Chris, I can't call anybody else. My dad doesn't know. He'd kill me if he found out. Chris, I'm begging you. It's really scary here. I've just seen 3 people shoot up. A bald Chinese lady with no pants on. And there's this old guy outside who wants his bedroom slippers.
Get out of my house.
You just moved. Chris, please hurry up and get here.
Brenda, I've got my mom's car. I can't drive it into the city.
Oh my God. There's a man with a gun. Get me the hell out of here.
Brenda, look, just hang up and sit down.
Don't move. I'll be there in half an hour. Oh, please hurry. I think he's gonna kill somebody. Maybe me.
Brenda?
Well, she's the MacGuffin, right? Like, because she's driving the story, and it's her. So we see her early in the movie with Chris, right, where they talk about where she's sort of threatens
run away
to run away.
She
And
hates
then
her abusive parents.
A couple hours later, when Chris is now like in the middle of babysitting, she gets the call that Brenda's like she just went and did it immediately.
Yeah.
But brought like what, $20?
Yeah. She's like, I'm gonna run away, not prepared at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's stuck in the train in the train station or bus station was
bus station.
Yeah, bus station.
The bus station in, somewhere in Chicago.
Well, they don't actually say Chicago in the movie, do they? I don't think they
do. They don't actually say it's Chicago, but it is Chicago.
It's recognizably Chicago, although there are, having lived there, almost every shot like from the city, if it's like showing like sort of a landscape of buildings or skyline or whatever, it's completely inaccurate. Like they composited in the trains, like the first shot where they get to the city, and there's funny. Trains in front of I forget the name of that building with the slant on it, but that never existed. That's not how it's shot.
Interesting.
And then when they leave the city, it's the same thing. There's it's like some sort of weird composite shot. So it's like they retooled the city of Chicago.
They retooled for their establishing shots. That's funny.
It was really funny.
But the Brenda character, I mean, that's especially where you could get really dark with this movie, right? Like, she's getting harassed by some madman with a gun who's chasing her around the bus station, and it's played for laughs.
The guy motions to her while she's on the phone in the phone booth, and he's pointing to his gun and smiling like, yeah, I got my gun.
I got my gun.
Over and over, and it is hysterical. Like, I was laughing like an idiot because it's so ridiculous, but obviously this is such a totally different world that movie was made in. Like,
well, that's what I mean when I talk about 80s these bubble movies. Like, this scenario today would never be portrayed like this. Like, this is harassment and attempted assault and maybe even actual assault, and the list goes on. But here it's comedy.
Most places an assault charge is a threat of violence.
Yeah. So this would qualify. Yes. And the mental, emotional trauma that she's clearly going through. And then on top of all that, she loses her glasses.
She loses her glasses, and I love that people who wore glasses back then are just absolutely blind.
Can't see.
Don't have the glasses.
Can't see at all.
As though they're and I got glasses when I was 7 years old, and I was like, I mean, it's probably a very weak prescription at the time, but I'm just even still, I can navigate without glasses. I'm not feeling around,
running into walls.
What's the
tripping downstairs, petting rats?
But that's giant sewer rat bit. God, it just got me. Her just sort of screeching and being in peril, this jokey peril. You would totally do it differently. You couldn't do it this way.
There's a big we should start tracking the movies we're covering if there's an anti-glasses movement out there, because it's a thing in LA Confidential. We didn't talk about it on that episode, but there's definitely an anti-glasses plot point, and here as well. So that's 2 in a row.
That's 2 in a row. You're right. Jeez.
We'll have to try, and I can tell you right now for the holiday film we're going to cover. Hint, hint. There is definitely a glasses situation as well. So
there is.
That's going to be 3 in a row soon. Anyway, we'll save that for our next episode. But yeah, the Brenda situation is just crazy, and Penelope Ann Miller, I think, would probably be more well known for Carlito's Way.
Oh, really? I was gonna say Kindergarten Cop is probably.
Kindergarten Cop. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also in a great movie that is going to be in our 2023 lineup called The Shadow.
Ooh, The Shadow.
The Shadow.
Yes.
So that's coming. She's in that, and There was one other one that was on my brain, but it's gone now.
The Freshman.
Maybe. Oh, The Relic. The Relic.
Oh, The Relic,
starring
yeah.
Tom Sizemore.
Oh,
Starring Tom Sizemore.
That's the title. The
The
Relic.
Tom Sizemore starring The Relic.
I thought he was in The Mimic.
No, you're switching him up.
All right.
Yeah, The Relic, a
No,
1997.
it's Michael Madsen and the no, just kidding.
That's Species.
Oh yeah, that's Species.
There we go.
Jesus, they're all the same, aren't they?
They're all there. All the stars are there.
The Mimic's Relic Species.
But yeah, she's playing very over the top here. Bradley Whitford. Now, this was one of the, I think, earliest appearances that I can recall. Was he in Revenge of the Nerds?
Oof.
Some good trivia there.
Let's get an intern on that.
Revenge of the Nerds 2.
2, right? It was 2.
Was he?
He sure was.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
That's a
back
good
in 87, like same year.
Same year. So, he plays. So Bradley Whitford's had an amazing career, great actor, has played, he is really good at playing the jerk sort of villain.
Yeah.
And this is,
Best.
I mean, knowing the kind of roles he plays, when you see him in the beginning, you kind of know it's coming.
Well, right. I mean, in 87 you wouldn't have, but
No.
knowing his later movies and any kind of track record he's had since, you probably make that jump to that conclusion.
Billy Madison, come on.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like that's probably his most, I mean, for me at least, that's his most recognizable kind of bad guy kind of jerk role as Eric Gordon, and Billy Madison. So
yeah, but great actor, and obviously had a great career on The West Wing and so many movies over the years. But what's his name? Mike, right? Mike is Chris's boyfriend, who right off the bat is distancing himself from her. Which is he crazy? Like, what's he thinking? What's he thinking?
Well, he blames it on a lack of her, participation in things.
Well, and is that his sister was sick and he didn't want to get.
Well, that was the excuse.
The
right?
excuse,
like the blame game came out later when she caught him in his lies.
Yeah. Right. That she didn't want to do everything that he wanted to do with her, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But again, a smaller role for him very early in his career, but well done, Bradley.
Huh? Look, little girl, I don't know what you thought we had, but it wasn't half as serious as you like to think it was. All right, you let go of her. Geez, you're picking him kind of young, aren't you?
This kid's got more class at 15 than you'll ever have.
You're such a loser. Here we go again. I can only dream of having somebody like Chris for a girlfriend. But you've got her. And you treat her like this? Don't waste your time, Half Pint. Her legs are locked together at the knee. I'd love to hit you. I'd love to pound on your face. Yeah? Go ahead.
And then we've got Vincent D'Onofrio.
Thor.
Plays
Thor. And now we would all know him at this time from Full Metal Jacket.
Well,
which was,
it came out the same year. I don't know if we would know him.
Yeah. I mean, he couldn't look more different than in those two movies.
No.
They put that really terrible blonde wig on him in this one.
They put that blonde wig, and he's like oiled up and definitely been working out. This is probably the most fit we'd ever see him in his career.
Well, right. But I heard, or I read an article where, he did this role and then went in to do Full Metal Jacket. And basically they made him gain a bunch of weight for Full Metal Jacket. Because he showed up on the first day on the set and he was jacked, and he looked like he could beat the shit out of every other person in Full Metal Jacket. They're like, that's not going to work for this.
Yeah.
You gotta bulk up, dude. Like you gotta get soft, man. Like, come on. So he like packed on weight so that he could play that role, which is probably, I mean, for, these are both kind of the same year. It's really his first two features that he did, and I mean, that's one of the most iconic like scenes in, I mean, arguably film, right? Like, I mean, when you go back and talk about Stanley Kubrick, right? So I mean, that's
for sure. Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's really kind of insane. The same year coming out with those two movies, again, polar opposites, couldn't be more different from each other. But there's your through line, Vincent D'Onofrio, who, again, like Bradley Whitford, has had a very long and healthy career. Has had, from what, Law and Order he was on, or one of the Law and Order shows for years. He was in movies like Men in Black. He's in the Marvel, the MCU, right?
Well, yeah, he plays
Kingpin.
Kingpin.
He's the Kingpin.
Yeah.
And then the Jurassic World, like, he's had a career that really had legs.
He's massive talent. I read something else that the whole reason, like the whole Thor thing is because of Maya Bruton, or Sarah, her like kind of love for Thor, but originally that was supposed to be He-Man. Did you read that?
I read He-Man, which would have made sense.
Yeah,
He-Man was so huge. He-Man was probably bigger than Thor.
He-Man was way bigger than Thor. Thor's huge now because of the MCU and everything, but like when they dropped Thor in this, it was like kind of random, right? I mean, the comic book existed, but like that was kind of like a small niche thing, like it, definitely not at the level that it's at now. He-Man, though, at the time was massive. Like it was a very popular, like later that year. I mean, just the next month, I think Masters of the Universe, the movie, came out.
Which was a cinematic masterpiece.
Well, yep.
Yeah.
Sure is. Arguably maybe one of the worst movies ever, but like but still, like, I mean, it was a huge thing, like that that toy line and everything was, the cartoon was massive at the time. But Chris Columbus didn't he didn't know what He-Man was. He was like, I'm not going to do, what the hell is this? I don't even know what that is. Let's do Thor.
Not his age bracket.
Yeah.
So it was so weird to see a major Marvel character appear in a non-Marvel related movie,
First live action appearance of Thor.
Yeah. And then the next one would have been, I think, the TV movie of was it The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, or The Incredible Hulk Returns in '88?
I think it's Trial he shows up.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen since it aired, and I forgot that there was some Thor character in it.
Yeah.
Isn't Daredevil in that too?
I think Daredevil shows,
I don't remember.
I haven't seen it in so long, but
man, I remember when that came out and how the buzz like around it coming out, because the Incredible Hulk had been off the air for a while. They just kept kind of dropping these
TV movies.
TV movies. Yeah.
Movie of the week kind of things.
And this one was a big deal. I mean, at least for me, because I was a fan of I didn't read many comics, but the comics that I did read, it was Daredevil.
I was not into Thor. I was not actually into Daredevil. I was reading whatever Marvel I was reading was, I think, Captain America and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But Thor was one of the original like Marvel legacy characters, right? But was just popularity wise was not that huge. I mean, in the 80s, it was all about Spider-Man. From my memory, Spider-Man, and then behind.
Yes, yeah. I mean, well, Thor was an original Avenger, and then I don't really know if he was like in the Golden Age, like pre-Marvel when it was.
No, I don't think so. I think he came in with the Avengers, but
yeah. So he's. I guess that would bring him in the '60s then. So,
yeah,
early '60s.
But that's the thing. Like any use of a Marvel character in anything at that time is so far departed from what Marvel and the MCU and everything comic book, movie, and entertainment related has become. Like it was really just barely a thing in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Like you had Superman and you had Batman that was coming,
right,
or had just dropped, but like there wasn't a whole lot else. Now it's like
now they're everywhere.
Everybody's getting a movie. Squirrel Girl's getting a movie.
Squirrel
I mean,
Girl,
it's like,
look out.
So,
yeah, well, obviously the Marvel machine has become something totally different, and it has taken over, the action blockbuster genre almost entirely.
Yeah.
But way back in '87, we get a nice little small role by Thor, and that character, it's another character that is sort of looked at as frightening, right? From the kids' perspective. I mean,
he's bad until he's good.
Right when they leave the suburbs and go into the city, and it's always portrayed as menacing and scary, and every person they interact with is threatening and menacing. That they blow a tire on the freeway and pull over, and then what are they called?
Van?
Like the
tow truck driver pulls up, and they've just been talking about this scary story about a guy with a hook for a hand, and of course he's got a hook for a hand, and they're totally scared by him. And then right when he kind of he wins their trust, right, and shows that he's just doing a kindness to them, and he's helped their kids. He knows their kids. He's helping them out. He like this bizarre subplot of his woman is having an affair, and he loses his mind and becomes the crazy guy that they were afraid of to begin with.
Yeah.
And then so he takes them on this sidetrack to his house where he beats up the guy and is shooting at one of them, and they get scared, so they jump in
It's just a Saturday night in the city, John. Saturday night in the city.
They jump in, the guy who's having the affair with his wife, they jump in his car to take off, but that car is in the process of getting stolen, so the guy stealing it takes them to the chop shop, and where I don't think he's got as bad intentions as it seems, but he leads them to probably the most dangerous of situations, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He wasn't thinking about the bosses,
right?
Not wanting some civilians knowing where all their crime is happening.
Yeah. And then you get your sort of, I don't know, kind of stereotypical mafia type guys, running things, and why are they after the kids? So they kind of lock them up, the kids escape, and then they're chasing them because they know where the chop shop is, right?
Well, but more so they have the Playboy, which has information about their
right
their operations in Philadelphia.
Right, they have evidence of it.
Yeah. So there's a throwaway line that's 80 yard in that's like, that book could get us all 20 years each or something like that. So it's like they know they can get in a lot of trouble if that, not only where their operation is, but what their plans are. Well, probably because there's dealers down there, right? So it's part of the network,
right
of their criminal activities. So,
and then so it becomes a chase movie. It's already been a chase movie, but it continues, and that leads them directly into the Blues Club.
Yeah.
Now this is the scene, right? This is the scene of the movie. So the Babysitting Blues. What was that tough for you guys to sit through? Because I can say it was for me. It's the most cringeworthy part of the movie.
Nope. Loved it. Loved it in '87. Love it now.
Maybe it's my own hang up that being forced to sing. I can now speak in front of an audience, but singing is like the most terrifying thing I ever did was my bar mitzvah, because I'm speaking in front of an audience B, I'm singing in front of that audience. C, I'm singing in a foreign language. So
Fair.
absolutely terrifying. So maybe that's my own personal reaction to the Babysitting Blues deal.
Yeah, I mean, anybody with any kind of like public speaking stage fright situation, maybe it's cringeworthy, but I think it's pretty freaking awesome.
Well, she loved it. Elisabeth
Nobody
Shue,
leaves without singing the blues. Like another one of my favorite lines from the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about it. Like, where did they come up with this scene? Frankly, like,
Why is it like it seems really random?
I think it was a Chris Columbus thing because Chicago, setting it in Chicago was like the blue, a blues bar has to be in it.
Yeah.
So they kind of came up with this idea. Because I think David Simpkins, the writer, was like not didn't get this whole thing until the movie came out, and then he's like, yeah, that totally works.
Yeah, it's a cute little scene for what it's trying to do. I don't know if I like it, but it's cute.
Well, Elisabeth Shue loves it and said this was the most, I think, fun scene she ever filmed in her career.
It was probably
That's
a
so
party.
funny.
That was probably
a
party when they shot that. Like,
I think
all the
she
extras and the bands.
Yeah,
and
I think part of it was her age. She's 23, 24, and really just was having fun with this scene. She really wanted to be in the party scene too, the frat party. So she's in it, but she wanted to be part of the party. So you can see there's a shot. I think it's the first shot without sort of their reaction shot where they're looking at the party, where you can see her. She's got like a baseball hat on. Like you can see her in the party.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
That's pretty hilarious.
Now, does the Babysitting Blues, does it still feel like it fits in the movie, or is it kind of distracting? Does it take you out of it?
It fits in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's easily, you could, I guess if you see it for the very first time and you had no idea, it might be like, huh?
It's weird to go into a musical deal right in the smack in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, but it sort of fits all the other wackiness that there's not really, there's a tinge of slight insanity to every situation, but it's all kind of plausible.
You gotta find a way to stop the bad guys from getting to them. So
right,
they gotta sing the blues. Everybody gotta sing the blues.
Right. So
yeah, it does. It works, and then we, and then they end up landing at the same party in that I can't remember what the name of that building is, but where the parents are, coincidentally, and they get chased through the building, and Maya Bruton is out on the side of the building, climbing the side of the building, and that's just insane.
Parents' nightmare. I was just sitting there watching it. I was like, my kids are never gonna have a babysitter. They're gonna come with me to the company party,
because this is what happens with babysitting.
Yeah, every time. There's no getting out of it.
It's just, did you find out about it or not?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so, one thing that jumped out to me watching it this time, another movie that would pair with this, a different tone, but also one we've covered here in the archives, After Hours.
Yeah.
It's all one night, hijinks after hijinks, running from one kind of weird or dangerous situation into another, coming across quirky characters left and right. They feel like parallel movies. After Hours, which had come out in, I think, 85, 86, and this coming out in 87.
Yeah, they share a DNA.
They do.
One
is Scorsese, one is Chris Columbus. So different tones. Very, very different movies, but plot-wise, very similar.
The single day adventure movie.
Always a great device. Yeah.
It's always good stuff. Everything
It was
happened.
popular. It was a popular little. There was a moment. There was a window there. It was all the rave.
Did it? Okay, let's go back to Elisabeth Shue as Chris. So Elisabeth Shue is 23, 24 at this time. Playing Chris is supposed to be what, 16? She can drive, so 17 maybe?
She says she's 17 in this.
17, so she's underage.
Doesn't she doesn't say she's a senior?
She's a senior, but she's 17.
But she would still be 17, right?
She could be, or 18, or one of the two.
The general average would be turning 18 your senior year, yeah.
Yeah.
So is it
depending on if she has a birthday in the first or second half of the year, though?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't know that much about Chris.
We don't know when her birthday is.
We didn't get that in the movie.
But this could put the movie right between. This could be like November 15th ish, maybe. I want to say,
Well, but I mean, but her age is important because it makes this next part
because
more or less weird.
The
Playboy situation is more or less weird. It's still weird, but like one's bad, really bad, and one's just like really weird. So I don't know.
Yeah. So
I'm going with she's 18.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we know, she's 18. Like, yeah.
But she's so now. Was that actually her? So in there's a subplot of, multiple characters have seen this Playboy, right? Yeah. Or this adult magazine there's a playmate that looks exactly like Chris. Now, was that Elisabeth Shue in those pictures?
I don't know.
At first, I thought no, and then they showed. They finally showed a shot with her, and I'm like, I think that is her.
When there's the picture on the bus stop, I'm like, man, that looks an awful lot like her. But like, they never, I don't feel like you ever really get a good like glimpse of what's going on in the magazine. I mean, it's like a centerfold shot or whatever that they keep pulling out, but it's always like kind of in passing, and like I don't know,
It's just it came across as a little icky to me this time that we're portraying, what is likely an underage person as a sexual object. Whether or not it's her, but it's riding that line, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
There was less a stigma to the set. I mean, look, there's a difference between 17 and almost 18 versus I'm saying it's a good idea, like ogling. I don't ogle below 30.
Choose your words carefully here, David.
But what I mean to say is back then it was she's practically, they always treated women as long as they were menstruating and had curves as women. It's that's what the 80s was. It was always about teen,
Yeah.
You had to be a teen, but it was you figure 18, 19, but even still she's 17 in this. So
yeah, but that's
I also think in the 80s people didn't it wasn't. I just don't think people thought about how weird some of this stuff was, right? And now
exactly,
you don't walk through a day where you're like, ooh, that doesn't quite sit right, But in the 80s, everybody was just kind of more
it was something that was to barely noted. Yeah.
But
now,
I don't know. It's not like when they show the magazine, they show I mean, she's not naked in the magazine. I don't think she's just in a provocative pose or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, it's the implication. And
although, wait a minute, if we watched the G-rated version of it, was there an actual?
Oh, that's a good point. We watched.
No, the one on the DVD at least. There's not nudity, but it's very I think she's wearing a
really
a boa, right?
You don't.
She's
see anything,
wrapped up in
yes.
a jacket or feathers. I don't know, but
it wouldn't be a shot you'd normally see, but
right.
She's in the pose of it, but of course she's covered.
Yeah.
And they're not
covered, but it's all implied.
And all this stuff, it's they're so quick too, because they're not trying to make it being too lewd about the imagery,
Right.
I don't know, the woman, maybe they did put her face in there. I doubt it's I doubt she posed for those.
I do think it was her. I think she's Elisabeth Shue, the actress. The human was not that age. She was older. I think she was again, something probably just at the time having fun with. And
Pretty sure we can find this information.
Yeah.
She was 24 at the time.
Yeah.
Or I guess when it was released.
So I'm going off the assumption that it was her who shot those images.
Could be.
Maybe.
Spending a lot of time on this.
Adults as the enemy is sort of another ongoing 80s theme. I don't know if theme is the right word, but it's definitely something that pops up in many of these teen movies, that it's the adults are either the flat out villains or they're just completely out of touch with their kids. And I think you get both in this movie.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The parents are oblivious. And then
but it has to be that way, right? Like, I mean, like you're not going to have another kid be the villain and have it feel like it has as much, weight or something to it,
Sure.
Like,
yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just, just something to note that's, with a teen movie comes, this is the version of adults that you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in real life, the adults to kids are the disciplinarians, and it's like, like
not me. I'm the cool dad.
You're the cool dad.
The cool dad, also with authority, and love and kindness, all of it.
Says you.
Yeah. Now, okay, so later on, we'll do box office glory in just a minute, but the popularity of the movie leads to a pilot, a TV pilot that was made, but never, I don't think it ever aired, in 1989.
It exists. It exists.
Is it out there? Did it?
Joey Lawrence is in it. I know that much.
Whoa.
Joey
Lawrence.
Exactly.
That's the one.
Brad? Is he Brad?
I have no idea what character he plays. I just know he's in it. I saw a clip. I don't know that the whole episode exists.
I don't know what you could have done with this as an ongoing series, though. I mean, how would you sustain this week after week after week?
Like the Babysitter Diaries. Like every weekend you got to go babysit, like maybe.
That's a high bar, a lot of activity you're going to have, a lot of adventures.
So many adventures. It's like the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Like, how could this dude really get himself into all this?
Well,
kind of
he's an adventurer, so that's what he does.
Every weekend.
Like, how much babysitting are these people doing?
Every weekend, Chris has a new friend who goes to that bus stop and is like, I don't know what to do.
What are these parents doing on all these weekends that they need this much babysitting?
Yeah. Maybe it's more like an anthology. Like it's a different,
yeah.
It's not the same babysitter, but it's just there's another babysitter who's got
I think you should pitch that. I think this idea will live on.
Yeah, let's not do it.
Okay. So it ends up getting a remake for the Disney Channel in 2016.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Yep, that happened.
Remake.
Don't accidentally select that one if you are trying to watch the one from 1987 after you listen to this podcast because you're so jazzed to check it out.
Right.
So,
I don't know. I feel like, with all the reboots and remakes and sequels and even prequels that are made now, I feel like this is ripe for a sequel. I feel like you could, the more adventures in babies, the further adventures in babysitting. Chris is the grandmother now, right?
Right.
And, the similar things happen, but with her as the veteran grandmother who would naturally be the babysitter, right?
just think of the MCU tie-ins now with all the.
Oh my God.
Huh.
Yeah. There's so much you could do.
I don't know. Sometimes it's better to just leave things alone, like.
Well, of course.
keep them wanting more.
But I feel like there's a story there. I feel like the Chris's story hasn't been fully told.
Oh
the
my
world
God.
needs to see it.
We need to see what happened to her and Dan.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We didn't even mention Dan. People are like, who's Dan?
George Newbern. Is that the actor?
George Newbern. That's him.
Who
probably best known from Father of the Bride, right?
Exactly. Father of the Bride is the big one, but I remember him, another actor who was kind of all over TV. I think he did something with Elisabeth Shue on TV right before this, so they had known each other. But always like a friendly, kind presence. So I think that was really good, really solid casting.
Yes.
And he's like 30.
He is.
Unfortunately, that's the typical thing is male actors being older than the female actors who are also playing younger.
He's actually about her. They were born in the same year. Actually, no, he's 23 when this movie comes out. So I guess he's 2 years younger than her. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, it really does come down to wardrobe, because like you can buy like her in that same outfit if they said she's a college student. It's like, yeah, she totally looks like a college student.
Yeah.
But then like he's in a college party and he definitely looks, they put him in the blazer, right? Doesn't he have the blazer? The classic blazer that you need.
Yeah. They dress her definitely like she's wearing mom clothes.
She's in a friggin' like
she's wearing mom clothes. She's driving the station
raincoat.
Wagon. She's driving the wood paneled station wagon, which is probably the
super
best car
dope. By the way,
that's
the ReconCinemation mobile. We need to definitely get one of those for the
for sure
the world tour.
Yeah, when we do the live shows, when we do the road trip.
Yep,
that is what we are driving.
That's right.
It's really weird that there's the Swedish version of the poster of this has George Newbern's character hanging like he's leading, like he's holding on to her, and the what's her face, the little girl isn't on the poster.
Right. Like the Drew Struzan poster that everybody would probably recognize from this, with the whole gang climbing the side of the building, a la like Batman, like Burt Ward, and like totally different. Totally, they like remocked it up, and I don't even understand why they did that.
Well, because like you get they want to play up a romantic night, right?
Yeah.
Like, so she's got a boyfriend, or it's about this couple.
Which, by the way, that kiss at the end where they finally, he ends up, after they get home, she gets the kids home safely and the parents get home and she leaves for the night.
And he stalks her back to the house.
Yeah, he stalks. And they have that kiss. Why? I mean, just a very critical note. Why is it not snowing? Why is it not snowing in that shot?
I don't know if it's wintertime.
Because it's spring, John. You're clinging to this.
Now I think it was sunny and like
no, it was
80
night.
degrees.
It was nighttime. And she's still wearing that coat, so it's cold. Come on, just have a little snow. It makes it more romantic.
I think this has got to be now. You're making me want to go back to this. Is it a winter? I think this is like
fall.
It's got to be fall.
I feel like there's no leaves on the
it's pre-first snow.
I don't know. Not unless there's snow in that first scene, which we remembered differently now.
We're putting it in our heads.
It's freaking Chicago in the winter. Like, there's no snow anywhere.
There's never been a brain twister like Adventures in Babysitting.
This is worse than The Sixth Sense, man. Did M. Night do this or what?
All right. Until we confirm that, it's TBD. But you mentioned Drew Struzan in the poster.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's
that's Home Alone.
The researchers are getting back to us with
when he pulls up in the Corvette to her house and break off the date. There's snow on the grass.
Snow, right? I was right. So
there is snow for sure.
It's not a fall movie. It's somewhere November, maybe January.
It's between.
I was wrong about December.
It's perfectly January 10th, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
perfectly. It's post New Year's. Is it a New Year's party they went to?
I don't know. There's no Christmas day.
But like, why you wouldn't have a company party? It was just a company party. So
But
Who has a company party after Christmas? It's got to be.
So it's got to be like November.
It's
like,
got to be before
for what?
Christmas.
What is it? A Thanksgiving? No, it's not Thanksgiving.
It's just a party, you know, maybe.
But there's
quarterly.
not a single decoration in that party that says.
No, there's no decoration.
That's it. This movie gets a 0. Forget it. It's over.
This is the worst non-Christmas movie ever.
And it came out in
Columbus
July.
on the phone.
Yeah.
Anyway, the poster though.
Yeah.
I am a huge Drew Struzan fan, and
Yeah.
this is one of his greatest posters. It's part of what I love about Struzan and his artwork is he really captures the tone of the movie. Big Trouble in Little China is one of the better examples. Back to the Future is a great example. The Thing is a great example. This movie is a great example. That it captures that, adventure, right? And fun. Like they're climbing, but they've all got, she's got kind of a smirk on her face. The detail work is great. There's a tremendous amount of detail in his paintings. This is just it's I think one of the, I would say you see the poster floating around in your 80s nostalgia stuff more often than you hear people talking about the movie itself. So the poster, I think, has, like, in a way, a longer life than the actual movie itself does.
I mean, I feel like if people see people recognize the poster probably more than they recognize the title of the movie. Is that what
exactly?
You're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just a big Struzan fan, and I think this is the perfect poster for this movie.
Struzan fan. He did a limited edition poster for a movie that I worked on once, and it's awesome. I'll have to bust it out sometime so you guys can take a look at it.
Yeah.
I'd love to see his take on Shark Tale.
No. How to Train Your Dragon 2, buddy. Come on, man.
He doesn't do much anymore.
I only did the best.
Struzan doesn't really do that much anymore. So getting him, I think he does a lot of sort of specialty work and assignments. And for a while, he was just doing Lucas stuff.
Yeah, he was pretty much retired even when he came on to help us with that poster. He wasn't doing a whole lot. It took a lot to get what we got from him, just because I think he was also having some health issues at the time in that particular window. But yeah, man, it's cool. Like he did end up doing a poster for the movie that's like limited edition. I think they released it at Comic-Con, but everybody on the crew got like a small batch, like numbered version of the poster. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, if you follow Struzan on social media, like he posts pretty regularly, and he'll post a lot of artwork that for all of his old stuff of unfinished things, partially finished. Like this was like my first pitch of this poster. This is just like this portion of it, kind of work in progress kind of stuff. It's really, if you're a Struzan fan, he's a fun follow because he just shows a lot of the making of stuff.
Yeah, and for anybody who doesn't know who Drew Struzan is, think of the most iconic 80s movie posters you can in your head for whatever movie, and he's the guy who did it. Like that's pretty much, I mean, that's the best way to say it. I mean,
any of those 80s hand-drawn looking posters are usually Drew Struzan. There was a handful of other great artists who did that similar kind of look, but he is a very distinct one. And he did a tremendous amount of Harrison Ford movies.
Yeah.
I think Harrison's the guy he's drawn the most in his career.
Possibly.
And also the skyline in that poster, though, it's not his doing. I'm sure it's all about, it's a composite of everything. Like, it doesn't look like nothing is oriented the way it is oriented on the poster itself. But it's it frames the characters really well.
Yeah.
I get it. It's not a commentary of but it's just like, whatever we got to make it look like. Who cares?
Right.
But yeah, Chicago doesn't look anything like that. It's kind of neat. But all those things are real. So anyway.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Should we talk a little box office glory? We'll see how this one did.
Sure.
Let's dive in.
All right. Adventures in Babysitting. You know, I could not find actually what the budget was, but I'm guessing it's probably in the 10 to 15 million zone. You know, you don't have a lot of heavyweight, dollar-wise, heavyweight, cast involved. You have a first-time director.
Yeah.
So probably, hard to say about what they would spend on locations, but a lot of locations. So the movie comes out July 3rd, 1987, has a 4.2 million opening weekend. It debuted at, any guesses?
Third.
David's got third. Brent, any care to guess?
I don't know. Again, 87, good year for movies.
Yep.
So
one of the best.
I don't know. We'll say, what did you say, David? 2?
Third?
I'll go 2.
Debuted number 9.
Price is Right.
Debuted number 9 against
number 9.
Yeah, came out against Inner Space.
Holy Jesus.
And it debuted between Roxanne, which was in its, I think, 3rd week, and Benji the Hunted, which is also had been out for a few weeks. So
saw all those at the theater.
Yeah, I saw Benji. I did not see Roxanne.
Yeah.
Or No, did I see Inner Space? No,
that Inner Space.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater. So yeah, not a really strong start, but still ends up doing okay. It ends up with a $33.7 million domestic run. So I would guess, again, hard to say, but I would guess it made its money back and was considered a hit. It did total out at number 34 of 1987, right between two movies we will cover at some point, Like Father, Like Son, and Batteries Not Included.
Saw both those at the theater.
Same with me. I saw both.
Dude, I'm telling you, I lived at the theater in 87. Had to be. I would have been in 4th grade. That's when I made the decision in my 4th grade mind that I wanted to work in film. So I think it must there's got to be a reason that syncs up.
Yeah. So you get some family movies look like they're all hitting kind of in that zone in 87. So of course, number 1 of the year 1987 we covered. You can hear it in the archives at ReconCinemation.com. That's 3 Men and a Baby.
Saw that one.
Oh yeah.
So all right. So what do you think now, looking back at it? What do you think this movie's legacy is? Where do you think when people think about it, where does it stand?
I'm gonna say it's mostly forgotten. Like I don't, that's as far as legacy is concerned. Like I don't think this is one that like really is on anybody's radar so much, except for those that may have seen it who get nostalgic sometimes flipping through Disney's streamers browse menu and things like that. I will say when I first got the Disney streamer, when it first released, this was on there and I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna watch it. And I went to watch it and you couldn't, which was a weird thing that Disney did when they first when they first opened or started selling their subscription, is that they loaded up their like titles, but not all of them were available. They had a very few that were available, but they wanted you to feel like they had a bunch of stuff for you to watch, and it was always like coming soon.
So the licenses hadn't expired, but they're like, you'll have it eventually.
Yeah. Well, now that was what 2-3 years ago. Now
about 3.
They're
it's all. I think it's all there now, but like at first it was a thing. Going back to this though, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's mostly forgotten. I don't feel like it's talked about. I feel like there was the remake or whatever in 2016, which I don't think was very well received, and that's not talked about. I don't think people even knew that this one existed when that one.
I didn't even know that new one came out.
Well, I think it's a Disney Channel.
It was movie. Disney Channel, yeah.
It is, yeah.
So I mean, as far as remaking it, but yeah, limited audience.
Yeah.
But I see. Oh boy, look at all the adventures that new generation's having.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think this one lives on in we who grew up in the 80s, you know, that's who's carrying the torch for this one still, and probably showing it to our kids and our families. But I think that's kind of where its life will kind of be. I think, you know, beyond that, I agree. I don't think audiences are really seeking it out. I mean, if you want a lighthearted, if you're looking for a lighthearted kind of fun movie, this is it. You know,
I mean, it's great. Yeah, it's still a lot of fun. I really enjoyed rewatching it, and I feel like I would totally have my kids watch this, but I also feel like they might respond the same way that they did to Goonies and be like, "What the hell are you making me watch?"
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but it's a good one to try out with the family. I would still recommend it for that, definitely. Yeah. And it's, you know, is it dated, you know, with its 80s-ness? For sure, but that's also part of its charm.
Yeah, other than you know, some problematic homophobia slur being tossed around.
Yes. But again, you don't hear that if you watch it on
you
Disney
won't hear
Plus.
that on the Disney.
Right.
So you'll
so you have your clean version.
You have your clean. So you don't have to have an uncomfortable talk with your children.
Yeah.
Or
Chris Columbus as a director, this is up there. You know, he went on to have great success throughout his career. I mean, I'm fascinated with the story of him just 2 years later going on to do National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, getting fired from that, and as a make good, he gets Home Alone.
Right.
So and then Harry Potter later on, and he's got lots of the first two Harry Potters, and but we really haven't seen much of I guess we just did see him recently with the Kurt Russell
Santa Claus
classic
movie.
Yeah, the
Christmas Chronicles.
Christmas Chronicles 2.
Oh, so the new one.
Yeah,
that's coming out.
Columbus, Russell, legends together. Han, they're all there.
He did Pixels, which
Pixels, right?
I think is way underrated.
I have not seen it actually.
Did Chevy get him fired off the Christmas
Chevy
Vacation?
would not work with him supposedly. So
like, how else would he get fired from
So John Hughes, who was producing the movie, let him go and said, "Look, I've got this other project. I think it'd be great for you. You should do this one, and we'll still be friends." And that was Home Alone. So it all worked out. But
Mrs. Doubtfire, another great family.
Oh yeah,
huge movies. I mean, he was a big director after this.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, he did the ill-fated Percy Jackson movie. Unfortunately,
True.
that didn't catch fire the same way that Harry Potter or
But you know, he's trying to stick with what worked. You know, kind of the Harry Potter kind of world. Now he's back doing the Christmas movies, which have clearly worked for him. Debatable if Adventures in Babysitting is one of those, but
I mean, I think if you're a fan of Chris Columbus, like definitely you should be watching this movie.
Yeah,
like,
especially for a first-time director. Like, and this is, you know, this was, I think it worked out how he wanted it to. You know, you're making a family film, the story, you know, for what it is, it works. So I think just a big success for him here.
I think he produces more now than directs anyway.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
exactly.
I know the last thing one of the last things he did was Christmas Chronicles Part 2, but he produced the first part of that as well. So it's not like he just came in as a, you know, he'd been a part of that project for a while.
Yeah. But I don't know. I had a great time looking back at this one. It had been a long time since I'd seen it. Fun times. And fun times are ahead as we roll towards the holiday season. And we've got a very special one coming at you. And after that, we won't get into detail, but we just set up the lineup for 2023. And I have to say, I'm very excited. There's a lot in there that are going to be new to me, actually. So we're trying to get a little more off the beaten path and movies that really are not looked at as much. But so I'm excited for that. So we've got a fun time coming up here at ReconCinemation. check us out on social media. We're ReconCinemation Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and check out our archives at ReconCinemation.com. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Why not? It doesn't hurt anybody, and in fact, it only helps the show get more views and listens. So if you can, that'd be great. Quick thank you to our friends Curtis Moore for the poster. He had a lot to keep up with. Curtis, this time, he's competing with Drew Struzan, so he had his work cut out for him.
He's the new Drew.
He's the new Drew. And as always, our friend E.K. Wimmer, listen to his podcast, Laser Graves, and thank you for the theme music as usual. And any final thoughts on Adventures in Babysitting, guys?
Don't fuck with the babysitter.
Nothing else to say after that. All right, well, get ready for the holidays. We will see you next time on ReconCinemation.
Take care.
Don't fuck with the podcast.
Oh, zing!
I was planning to use that all night. Took the wind out of it there. It's all good.
Sorry, David.
I didn't know if it was going to work anyway.
Hi. My name's Chris Parker. I live in Oak Park. That's a suburb.
They probably figured that out.
This is Brad, Sarah, and Daryl. And we're in trouble.
Ain't no doubt.
See, me and my boyfriend, Mike, tonight's our anniversary. But then he went and canceled, and now I'm stuck watching these three. And it's so hard.
And it's so hard
babysitting these guys.
She got the
I got this call from Brenda. I went to pick her up. The tire had a blowout, and my mom's car got shot up.
And these guys started to chase us.
And we all got hijacked. We're cruising down the highway.
This big old Cadillac, and it's so hard.
It's so hard
babysitting these guys.
She got the babysitting blues. Babysitting blues.
I've got the babysitting blues.
There are nights you swear you were born to lose, like tonight. And you wish your feet were walking in someone else's shoes.
Some guys are out to get us.
And Brenda's probably dead. We ain't got a nickel.
And they should be in bed, and you out of luck.
Out of luck watching these guys. I've got the babysitting blues.
Baby, baby.
Babysitting blues.
Baby, baby.
Babysitting blues.
There are nights
Swear you were born to lose. Yeah.
like tonight, and you wish your feet were walking in someone else's shoes. Some guys out to get 'em, and the girl's probably dead. She ain't got a nickel,
And we should be in bed.
you out of luck.